And yeah, we're just hanging out here. We're doing a beta test for our upcoming Music, Philosophy, and More show on Thursday with guest star Lonny Friedland. Yes, and we're going to dig into his life, find out what gets him out of bed in the morning, and what got him out of bed for the past 30 plus years,
Pretty
and how
nice.
music factors into that. And, with your host, John Henry Sheridan, and your co host, your super co host, Louis La Rocco.
Howdy, y'all.
So, we're going to hang out for a few minutes. So, if anyone's got a question for Lonny, for Lou, for myself, please feel free to chime in with that question. But just to get a taste of what's to come, Lonny, how many years would you say you've been a singer, if you don't mind revealing a little bit about yourself?
No, of course. I guess, the question hinges on, when did you stop feeling like you were just making believe you're a singer, and when do you actually start feeling like you legitimately might actually be a singer? So I guess what's funny is that I remember when I started high school, my claim was I want to act, but I can't sing. And so I limited myself to non-musical roles or non-musicals completely. And then everybody was just so into music. And I caught the bug so hard. And I kind of always felt like I had an interesting voice, but I never thought I could sing. And then I would start joking around, singing with my friends. And I actually really remember clearly a girl that I was dating was like, "Hey, you sound good singing." And you wonder if one comment changed your whole life, but it's possible, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I wonder if there's something there. And I felt in my heart that however bad I am today, I know for some reason, somehow, for sure that I could be good at this. Like I know I'm not good today, but I know I could be. I don't know how I knew or why I knew, but I definitely knew. And I would say then, so that was like mid high school, 9th, 10th grade, like 15, 16. And then I think I actually had some balls as a singer by the time I was like 18 to say, I'm confident enough to do this and do this in front of people and say, if I'm going to walk around and tell people I'm a singer, then I got to be ready to sing. You can't walk around saying I'm a singer and then people, well, sing me something. And it's like, well,
Right.
Yep.
You got to be ready to sing, so I got myself there. And I think that I felt legitimized once I started being able to play guitar. So, because singing is very primal. Everybody sings, babies sing, everybody can and should. And I truly believe, as a philosophy, if we're going to get into, like, everyone can and should sing. And I don't believe that, I can't sing or you can't sing, or maybe you don't sing on key grade, or maybe you don't carry a tune grade, or maybe your voice doesn't have the greatest tone, but everybody can and should sing. But not everybody can and should play guitar, right? And so then once I started to be able to back myself up and say, hey, here's a song, start to finish, then I was like, all right, now I feel legitimate. And then the next level of legitimacy, I would say, was writing and composing my own songs. Sorry, that noise won't happen. There's a train. It's on Lou's bass
I
drum.
thought the aliens were coming for sure.
No. There's a train outside, but I didn't realize the back door's open. But I think that the next level was writing music and saying, okay, maybe I can't sing that Led Zeppelin song, but I can definitely sing this song that I wrote because I wrote it. So so I think it's almost like these steps of legitimacy. And then hitting Dirty Mother Nation, I felt like 70% confident, most of the time, which sounds not great. And I'll tell you, there were nights, man, where I was nervous before even walking out there. Like, is my voice there tonight? Is it going to cooperate? Am I capable of doing this tonight? If I do it tonight, can I do it tomorrow? And I would say it wasn't until the end of Dirty Mother Nation and almost until like 5-6 years ago that I've started feeling as a singer extremely confident at any given moment that if I need to express myself in song, I can do so. it's been a journey, and maybe I could have gotten there quicker with lessons, or if my parents had done blah blah blah. But it was a really great journey.
Hmm. So it's pretty fascinating. I imagine it's pretty encouraging for people who know your journey and who've been a fan or follower of yours to some extent, or even sort of friend on the sidelines who just knows you and sees what you've done. Um, Probably encouraging for them to know that it took so long for you to actually feel really solid in yourself as a singer, because I'm sure from externally people thought you probably felt that much earlier on,
Right. Yeah, I'd say there's two interesting things that happen, and one of them is when somebody you don't know, you didn't know forever, but you know is a great musician. I could give an example. This guy Josh Steinhardt, known him a long time, but never played with him. And we did a show 2 years ago, a Tom Petty tribute. And I made some self-deprecating remark about my vocals, and he gave me a very warm, nice compliment back. And for me, it was like, so this guy doesn't know that I'm a faker. He thinks I'm legit, and that made me feel good. But then the other side is when you bump into somebody like Steve Santacandro, who I've known for a long time, and then he'll hear me and he'll go, "Wow, you're a lot better than you were in high school." So the two of them both feel good in their own way, because one of them you feel like I could go and start a new life somewhere and change my name, and they'll think I was always talented. And then the other one, yeah, you see that they saw your journey, and that's kind of vindicating in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of
Cool.
looking at it.
Yeah, I know Lou has some input on this because his journey is a little bit similar to yours, if it's fair for me to say that, Lou, because I know Lou didn't, I don't know, maybe didn't always see himself as a singer. Is that right?
I never saw myself as a singer. I never wanted to be the singer. I never wanted the attention. I think that's what led in part of the angst that Lonny, you were talking about before we went live. We just always did, we did a lot of tryouts and we couldn't find anybody we all liked. So, and it happened in every band I sang in. So I just wanted to be the guitar player. I wanted to be Dimebag Darrell in a pop group. So kind of like the guy from Muse. And and we wanted a singer, and we could never find a singer. And I was just good enough. I don't think until my last band did I accomplish anything that I felt was actually real singing. Everything else was just yelling or kind of off key, or as a guitar player holding a melody. And I just never really wanted to be a vocalist. I never wanted the bright light on me. I wanted it on somebody else.
So that makes me think so many things, right? So first, there's something about musicians and filling that gap of like, I don't want to do this, but someone's got to do it. And there's been so many amazing people. I mean, look at Roger Waters was not the leader of Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah.
Took over and wrote Dark Side of the Moon. Now, I personally, not a huge early Floyd fan. I like the Waters era, but there's people who love what Syd Barrett did, and that there's validity there. But personally, I think Roger Waters wrote one of the most breathtaking albums of all time, and the guy didn't even really want to be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like that wasn't why he was there. So and so what's funny is my journey was actually kind of like I kind of broke into the back door almost, where like everybody was you, and so I was like, so I'm going to be the guy who wants to sing. Because nobody wants to sing. Every band was, I don't really want to sing, but nobody else sings. I play guitar, I'm going to sing. I mean, that was the standard. It was, I think John was part of that group. I know, like, if you remember Justin Wirtz, and they had a few bands in high school, right? And everybody used to say the same thing. I don't really want to sing, but I'm just the guy who's stuck doing it. So I was like, there's your in-law, get in there. That you'll be the guy who wants that. There's the noise again. That won't happen on Thursday. And then the other comment that it makes me think of is that, so specifically to Lou is the who he was and who he is, and always loved him either way. It's not, but I distinctly remember we're in John's basement, and we had only met a couple times, and I was extremely intimidated by the sheer talent in the room. John Henry to me was like, I felt like I was crawling out of the sea and he was building skyscrapers.
Mhm.
You know, everybody else in the room was somewhere in between there, but I was way, 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 way down, you know. And so in comes Lou, and he starts banging out these metal riffs. So right there, like I'm like G chord, like G, 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 and Lou's like, so already intimidated. And then I'm like, well, I really want to be a singer, and I'll never fucking forget. I'm sorry, I won't curse on Thursday if I'm not supposed to. I'll never forget. Lou was like, I think I was talking about Chris Cornell, and Lou was like, yeah, Chris Cornell's good. You know, I actually technically have a wider range than he does. I'll never forget those words coming out of Lou's mouth. And I had this mixture of like jealousy and anger and frustration, and I was like, I'm sitting next to this guy who could sing better than Chris Cornell. Like, why am I here?
Was I drunk when I said that?
I don't know.
I maybe was saying that to get a rise. I think Chris Cornell's one of the greatest singers in history.
I was like, God damn, Lonny. You know, and I'll tell you, so, you know, speaking of singing and all this, right? My biggest frustration for so many years that I clung to until I finally like learned to live and stop whatever was my range. I can't sing a high B. I can't get out of this range. I got to sing high. I want to hit a Chris Cornell note. I want to hit a Muse note. You know, and like I can't tell you like the sheer quantity of time that I spent thinking about things like that. And so like one day you're like a decade in and you go, you're a baritone. And these are the notes that you can hit physically. Do your best. And that's that. You know what I'm saying? Like, did you ever have that epiphany of like, be who you are, you know? Like,
yeah.
Just let it be. You're not Chris Cornell. And you know what? 9.9 out of 10 people aren't Chris Cornell. So if you're going to base your success on being Chris Cornell, you will have no success.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll chime in there a little bit. Well, just to, I'm not exactly Lou's defense, but knowing Lou, I can't imagine he would have said that he's a better singer than Chris Cornell, being serious. But maybe if he was new to you, you probably thought maybe this guy's he's probably being a jerk. But you know,
Threw my confidence for years.
I was a jerk very often, intentionally. I used to love getting a rise out of people, whether I knew them, whether I didn't know them. I loved aggravating people.
I don't think I sensed sarcasm well when it was in a situation where I was intimidated. I think in normal life, I'd be like, shut up. But like in that room, anything would have been believable. You know, you could have told me anything and I was just like.
You weren't the only one. I told John that too, and he gave the same look of astonishment. Like he couldn't imagine all of us used to go into the basement and it was his world. It wasn't just his basement, it was his world.
Yeah. And it wasn't like other kids' basements where like it was like, oh, my mom doesn't come down so we can get high and get drunk and bring some bitches over. It was, we're alone down here to like get better at what we love doing.
Yep.
It was very different. And when I try to explain to people, even like my wife, like the sheer wholesome wonderfulness of being friends with John Henry, I don't think people like get it. Like it almost sounds like I don't know, like not too good to be true. Like no one could be that genuine, no one could be that real. But I look back at that time and my entire friendship with John as being one of the most like just honest and real and wholesome relationships I've had, starting in that basement.
Wow, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, yeah, and I know something about. I remember I met Lonny
People
early
power
in my college days, right? Oh, people power politics. Is that the class?
I think.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that was fall '99 or something like that. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know the Clockwork demo had just come out, and I gave it to you online.
I think I have
the basement of William James Hall or something like that. And I don't know, something about this guy. I'm like, he's just a cool guy. I want to be his friend. You know, for some reason, he had that magnetism. You, Lonny.
Thanks.
And I don't know how long it was before we decided that we both like music. Maybe right off the bat we started talking about music. I don't remember, but yeah. And at some point I just thought I'm gonna keep this guy in the loop, and I just kept reaching out to you because I thought you were a cool guy and you love music, and I want to see that develop in you because I saw you wanted that
Yeah.
to develop, and I was excited by that. I'm like, oh man, he really wants to do this more and more. And
Yeah.
I want to see you be victorious in that. It's true.
I appreciate it, and I always felt the welcomeness and the willing. I have to say, people who don't ever get to be in a rock band or a rock situation or a music situation, I don't know if they realize how warm and what's the word, like not comforting, but like the people around you want you to be better and will help you. Like I had a lot of people along the way that out of the goodness of their hearts just took me under their wings, taught me this, taught me that, wanted to help. And so to answer your question though, or I know exactly how we met, and I know exactly the first time I saw you, and it, in my own creepy way, right? And I don't know if I just don't remember things well because I'm burnt out now or I'm old, but I have really clear memories of that time. But I think it's also I was so obsessed with music that I would almost like mentally collect musicians as I saw them. And so I saw Dave Evans in a production of Sing, and he was on stage because my friend Phil Koenig went to Madison. So I went to go see him and Sing. And I remember Dave, I think, was on stage and he was like funny, like in a nerdy role. But I think he also played the drums that day. And I was like, wow, that dude play. But at the end of Sing, this dude came on stage and he had like long flaming red hair, but it was in pigtails. I don't know if he was, dressed like a girl or what exactly was happening that night at Sing, but he came on stage, guitar in hand, absolutely wailed, like played like Eddie Van Halen and sang like Robert Plant, and like just tore the house down. And I know, I was there to see my friend, but I was like, I don't know what the hell I just saw. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen somebody my age do. And so when I was in Brooklyn College, I looked to my left and I see this vaguely Viking-ish dude to my left. I was like, that's got to be him. That's definitely got to be the dude that I saw on stage. So I purposely approached you and was like, you were in Sing, Madison and all that. And you confirmed it. And, so it may have seemed, circumstantial to you, but I was stalking you.
Okay. All right, good to know. As long as we cleared it up, it's good to know.
Yeah.
That's
You never
warming.
did anything creepy to me, so I never suspected it.
Yeah. I stalked out
Yeah.
good musicians and any musicians. I wanted to know them.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
That's
sweet.
cool. I totally understand that. I understand that, like having the eye out for the,
Yeah.
the musicians and the talent, the certain specific talents, or
Yeah.
I don't know, sort of magnetic personalities, if for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and it's served me well. I'll tell you a quick story. We did this Tom Petty benefit a couple of years ago. One of the best experiences of my life, and we were at a point where we were like, you can't do these songs without the keys, right? You need those keys. You need that organ in Refugee. You need, Tom Petty without Ben Montench is less, right? And my brain just went back to high school. I knew this guy. I just said his name, Josh Steinhardt, and I was like, I know he was a brilliant keyboard player. Let's see if he still does it. And he ended up joining, and he did the show with us. Like just from having this like encyclopedia in my brain of like Brooklyn musicians.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. That it's really why. Again, this is part of the whole reason of the spirit of this show, this podcast, music, philosophy, and more. Is as a musician, I don't have as a human being, I don't have a heck of a lot to show in terms of what I've earned financially over the years for my music or just in general. I have great fortune. There's no doubt about that in my life, but it's not directly from my efforts as a musician. And I've put in tons of effort. So I'm like, what do I have? And what I do have is stories, and I do have connections with lots of people. And as I've gotten older, those connections can certainly weaken unless I make effort to keep them stronger. And the stories are what I have. There's if you ever heard of Joseph Campbell. Do you guys know Joseph Campbell?
Sounds
Name it.
familiar.
He's a philosopher, and he specializes in like anthropology and like the folklore of the whole planet Earth, and from all the different cultures and religions, and how they all have a similar theme. Even Star Wars and any really great story,
The hero's journey.
yeah, is the hero's journey, and it's the simple basic is the hero starts in a comfortable home environment, leaves the nest, goes to a difficult place, gets out of the comfort zone, and fights the dragon. Hopefully, wins or learns something along the way. Maybe gets the golden fleece, comes back home and tells the story. But it's not about getting the golden fleece or winning the medal or whatever. It's about coming home, telling the story, and inspiring the next generation to go out and do their hero's journey. And one person can live this hero's journey over and over again many times in one lifetime. But that's what I have, and I think that's what many of us have, is our stories. So if we can have a chance to share them, and we have lots of them, especially if they can intermingle, I think that it makes it even more fascinating, to weave them together.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be a great way to use that sort of treasure that I have, which is not, like I said, not financial, but the treasure of people connections and the treasure of the stories that I have, and I know my friends like you have as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the spirit of it.
No, it's interesting. We all came from a starting place where we wanted to be famous, right? I don't think anybody on this call is going to turn around and say, if we could rub the genie lamp and put your face on Rolling Stone, that you'd say no. That was probably, we all felt that way. But I think that at some point, and I know for me, I don't think it was as eloquent as you said it, but for some point, for me, I definitely had to say, I'm 39. I'm probably not going to be playing guitar and singing as a career. I'm probably not going to be singing and playing guitar famously on MTV or whatever medium is du jour. So why do I keep playing? And I maybe could have at that point said, I'm not gonna, but that would have made this whole journey feel wasteful. Like, what was the point? Why? Why? And I have no desire to. I mean, I still strongly crave that guitar as much as I did, 20 years ago. And when I walk by it, it's got its own kind of sexiness that it's waiting for me, and I want to put my fingers on it really bad. And anybody that's kind of distracting me from putting my fingers on the guitar is getting me annoyed, because I'd like to get back to playing my guitar now. That feeling has never gone away, and I'm grateful. I work with a guy, Steve Stein, who's a pretty deep guy, and he said to me one time, he said, you know how to play guitar? Nothing that ever happens will ever take that away from you. I mean, I guess barring a stroke or something, but besides besides something totally morbid, and that's not the point of the story. But if you think about it, no one had ever said it to me before, and when he said it to me, I was like, it's kind of true. Like, not planning this, but wife leaves me, kids hate me, lose my house, lose my job. As long as I could get a rinky-dink guitar, I could sit on the street corner and do something with that, right? Like, I have that. It's mine, and no one can ever take it away or sell it, or and
yeah, that's a powerful point. I think that's something we probably don't think of often unless we talk to someone who never learned how to play guitar and really wanted to,
Yeah.
And you get that type of, I don't know if your friend doesn't know how to play guitar, but
he doesn't know.
Yeah, I think that's the type of thing I would have heard from people who,
Yep.
because when I'm wondering, what does it all mean? Where's the riches that I dreamt of,
Right.
financially? Riches, like, of course, human relationships and place to live and family. That's and the ability to create art and share it with people.
You have a
Yes,
better
that's
chance of
riches,
jumping
for
in the
sure.
Mediterranean looking for a shipwreck.
Right.
Than to actually make a lot of money in the music business. Yeah, I mean, it's a very small sliver of people who make a killing and a decent amount make a living, but they got to work hard. We got to work hard, whoever it is that does it. But I do agree that at the end of the day, if I am in the forest for a year as long as I have a guitar, I could entertain myself and probably soothe my soul and
100%.
avoid
Yeah,
So
complete anxiety or anything.
my daughter just spilled some water. That's why I jumped over. You could say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? Thanks for lending us your daddy.
But, so funny story about her that I was going to tell anyway before she interrupted us was, so my wife is not, she probably wouldn't call herself a musician, but she has more raw musical talent inside of her than most actual musicians. She was born to musicians. So her mother plays fiddle and piano. Her father plays banjo, guitar. They all sing. Her brother plays guitar. And so one day I was talking to my daughter and I said, yeah, my friend Mike, he would love to play guitar. He wishes he knew how to play guitar. She looks me dead in the eyes and goes, he doesn't know how to play an instrument. Like, so she didn't realize that not everybody in the world knows how to play an instrument because everyone around her can play an instrument. So it was like one of those eye-opening moments, and it's funny. It's funny.
I can play the piano.
Awesome.
Really?
Wow.
No.
Can't wait to hear it.
Wait, my water, you are invading my water.
Good night. I love you.
Wow.
Yes.
Piano player.
Yeah, somebody inherited the ham gene.
I like how you slipped in that no. Just really quickly.
So she's at the stage right now where she watches me play and she wants to copy, and so does my son, but they don't want to be taught. They want to do their thing. And I try to encourage their interest. So I don't want to stamp it out, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you're 7. Let me show you a C chord. No, I like it. I like my fingers over here. I like the, Okay. So that's why I'm a little hard. When she's like, I could play piano. I'm like, no, you can't. So why don't you let me teach?
We could probably do a whole series on our failures to try and teach our kids music. I rant all the time on all of these maneuvers I was trying to do to convince my kids to get into music. And I've got ukuleles sitting around. We've got tiny little pianos. We've got violins. We've got guitars everywhere. And I used to plant them on the ground. Even when they were so young, they were still crawling. And I would plant them around so they just hear something or pluck a string, and no interest. I have a whole studio, no interest.
So you know why I think it is, and I because I've thought about it, is that when I was like 14 or 15, I needed to play that guitar. Like, God help me, I'm going to learn how to play this guitar. No one was like, play this guitar, and I think that that's the problem. They have to find what they can't stop doing, because that's what I can't stop doing, but I don't know what they can't stop doing. Maybe it's dancing or something totally different.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for all of us who are doing this podcast, and even all the other guests and stuff, is that we've seen not making money. Like, we've hit the ground. Like, a lot of people used to do a lot of bands and they thought it was going to be fame, they thought it was going to be money, then they sold all their stuff, or it stayed in the basement for the rest of their existence. All of us continued, even though I don't want to use the term we failed, but we definitely did not become gigantic musicians with millions of dollars. And I think what makes this podcast special is that you're hearing from other common people that are musicians, love doing it, had a couple of chances here or there, had some small successes, but really just past that brink of like, okay, I'm going to be a normal person. This isn't going to be a Motley Crue documentary. I'm going to be a normal person for the rest of my life, but I still love music.
Right.
Why is that?
I think that the way I feel about it is that I will fail as a musician when I stop playing. I didn't fail when I stopped being famous. I think there's even something to be said for I didn't fail when I decided I don't necessarily want to be in a band and play 3 times a week. Like, I love being a guitarist and a singer. I don't always love standing in some crap hole bar with drunk people trying to convey a truly emotional and important piece of art to me, to people that are waiting for the next band to come up so that they could hear Take On Me again. So there's an element of and I'm not trying to be too cool for school, but there's a give and take. Okay, yeah, I don't do that, but what I wanted was not what they wanted anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted Freebird, and I wanted to convey a message that I felt like writing. Now, there were times where I would write something, usually with Dirty Mother Nation, because people knew we were an original band, so they knew what we were getting into. So they would, and then we had a decent amount of female fans. And I'm only bringing up the gender because guys, unless you're really big, dudes aren't going to be into other dudes' bands. Dudes are weird about being into other dudes' bands because if a dude is watching your band, chances are he has his own band. Whereas women, I think, can be a little bit more like, I genuinely like this and want to listen to it. And we had a decent contingency of that. And every so often you would write something and someone would say like, I lost my mom and I heard what you wrote about losing your dad and that was amazing. And like having that experience, even just at the Wicked Monk versus Madison Square Garden, is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, one of the questions I was going to ask on Thursday is we're touching on it now is just put in your memory bank. We don't have to dive deeper. Is what were the drawbacks of being in a rock band, which you kind of touched on? And of course, what were some of the highlights that you really enjoyed? And
Yeah.
On that point about like someone commenting on your or complimenting you that they were moved by your song about loss, even though it was in the Wicked Monk, right?
Right.
A bar in Bay Ridge. For me, I remember many little, and I think I mentioned this in a talk with Lou. There were many little points in my journey where I would hit upon, like, let's say I want to have someone be moved by my song. Let's say I cried to some song when I was younger, and I said I want to make someone cry to my song, and then I did, and someone would tell me, "Hey, your song Daddy made me cry. It really moved me." And then maybe another person, whatever. Even if it was only one person, I achieved the goal. So it's like how many do I need? A million to say that? One, it happened to one. If it could happen to a million, what's the difference? I achieved the goal. I always loved learning solos note for note. So I had a solo, Love is a Myth, and one of my students learned it note for note. And that was flattering. And I mean, how many more how many more guitar players in the world need to copy that for me to get the drift? It felt good. That's what it feels like,
Not enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Times that by 1,000. I know what it feels like. Or I've signed an autograph. I think we've all signed autographs.
Right.
We know what that feels like. It's cool.
Yeah.
And do we have to do it over and over and over again? It's like
right. And the other thing, and look, once again, if someone came right now, magic lamp burst into the room behind you, John, and said, rub this, we're going to put you on the cover of Rolling Stone, we all would rub it, so let's not front. Not that we are. But,
I probably wouldn't.
Really?
No, I like the background is way better for me.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe 10 years ago you would have.
Maybe.
But at the same time, you look at you look at the people who get the dream. It doesn't really look so great sometimes, Yeah, so many people lost to drugs, suicide, or depression. It doesn't really actually look like a very satisfying life. Now, this wasn't something I was mature enough to think about at 19, but at 39, do I want to be in a bus in, Illinois? No, I don't think I do, maybe a nice airplane, but, chances of hitting Led Zeppelin levels of touring is not likely. And then also, I don't know how much you guys have talked about this on this show, but specifically for us, the industry changed under our feet.
Yep.
So maybe if we were 15 or 20 years earlier,
Before.
That might have been something. Or maybe if we were 15 or 20 years later and we were in like the SoundCloud, share my thing. But like, I remember we were like handing out tapes. People were like, no one has tapes. Then you make a CD, and then people are like, no one has CDs, and you're like, buy my music. No one buys music. Like we were in such a weird time that when I look. So now, of course, I'm not a musician by trade. I'm in business. I'm in sales. I've been with T-Mobile for 16 years, and so sometimes I'll stop and I take the musician hat off, and I look back at my Dirty Mother Nation and music career as a businessman, and it's a totally different. Like I'm like, wow, we did everything wrong. Everything wrong. We didn't market. We didn't have a brand. We didn't have an image. You didn't have real, ways of getting your name out there. We did it all wrong, but that's for musicians making believe we were business people. We weren't business people. And quite frankly, who wants to be a business person? At that point, now it pays my bills, but at that point I wanted to I didn't feel like I was a good enough guitarist and singer to be working on my business skills. I needed to first make sure I could sing the song.
Well, in our defense, I mean, we hit a really, really strange time in history where we were chasing the music industry, and the music industry was moving away with what we were doing, and the technology was just, I mean, if you think about how long the periods were that we had each of those technologies as people, like vinyls, everybody who was in the vinyl era had like what, 30 years, 40 years. Then even the cassette tapes were around for like 20 years. Yep. But when we started coming up, it was moving so much faster. We had CDs for a bulk of it, but I think towards the end of all of our careers, we started seeing the CDs disappear because it all became MP3s.
It did. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just remember trying to chase people like, listen to this. Like, I don't even have this format in my car. I don't have tape in my car. I'm like, all right, well, here's a CD, and the CDs are scratched and nobody wants to walk around with the CD. And then you put your stuff on MySpace, and I guess that was somewhat effective. But at that time, there was no way to get, what you're listening to on MySpace portable. Yep. It wasn't until I think Dirty Mother Nation was, I think, well over by the time I got an iPod. Mm-hmm. I remember I was hanging with Sean Kerrigan because he helped me. He used to have the catalog of all catalogs of music, if you remember. He was Spotify before there was Spotify. Oh, yeah. And he made me my iPod, but I think the band was already over at that point. So, it just goes to show, like, it was such a weird time. Like if this was 1975, maybe you cut a record and you start handing it out, and you do what you guys did and you run to California and start handing it out to people. But where we were at, like, you couldn't even get the right format. How do you want to listen to this? Let alone can I listen to it? Do I like it?
Yeah, and we were constantly 2 steps behind. All of us.
You're right. Yeah. It's also, I don't know how much this played in for you, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but it was also the advent of amateur home recording. Like, people were first getting into it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of bands made the mistake of thinking they knew how to do it. And I think Dirty Mother Nation was one of them. And if you listen back to some of those, like, garbage can drums and, I don't know, bathroom vocals, it just sounds like crap. Because people thought they knew what they were doing.
In all fairness, I think I've had multiple bands. Lou has had multiple bands. Lonny, remind me, is it mainly Dirty Mother Nation in your solo career, or were there other bands that I don't know about?
Yeah, no, that was really it. I would do a show with this one and do a show with that one, but no long time band.
Okay, so yeah, just so the way my brain works, it's a little different. Well, obviously, all the brain works a little differently, but like, I could look at this band and that band, how I could name what each band did right or wrong, according to my current knowledge level. But, looking back at Modus Tollens, I don't know. Do you remember Modus Tollens? So that was started late 99 to 2002. And we did, besides putting on a good show and writing good music, we did nothing else right. We had a website, but we didn't have nothing merch. We did CDs, but we could hand them out a few times. We never sold any CDs, I don't think. We had no logo to speak of. We had a few fonts we stuck with, but no, I don't think we had a mailing list, I guess, but we didn't really know how to work that. But in all fairness, there's so much available for the DIY musician now to learn and to study in the business, and so many free content or content you pay for. But back then it was really hard to get any of that. I bought one book, and that was my book for everything, and I just studied it over and over and over again. And of course, that book was constantly getting out of date every year, you know. And
to make it in the music business or something. You gave me one of those books with a million posters.
Yeah, it's probably the book I'm talking about. And you know, so in all fairness, at each stage in my career anyway, and I imagine it's similar for you guys, I just did the best I could with what I thought was important at that time. So Modest Tones, I really wanted to hone my songwriting skills, my abilities, expand my guitar playing, because I was always a heavy metal guy until then. I now was becoming like pop rock, and to sing a little bit, although I was politely asked to not sing.
I remember you had a guy that I think he was like similar looking to me at the time, like he had similar glasses or something. That
right, Andy Beck. Yeah, you guys had a little bit of a similar look. Yeah,
remember that.
I thought he was a great singer. You know, I'm glad that transition happened, but you know, so we did the best for what. And so my goal around that time was to have a band that sounded like, I don't know, somewhere between Dave Matthews Band and Billy Joel's band, and we achieved something similar. It was enough and we put on good shows that people really liked and had a good time playing. So I accomplished that dream, you know, and then it just wasn't fun anymore. Yeah. So at that point, we let it die, and the next thing came, which was District 22 in this case. But, you know, in each case, I could see what each band was lacking in terms of professionalism. But when I look back, I do realize, hey, like you said, I don't want to be on a bus. I don't want to be in a new town every night, especially at this age. But so I didn't want those things as much as I thought I did, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. You made me think of a couple of things. I think one thing I got to take back is I may have slammed Dirty Mother Nation for not having enough merch, but you reminded me when you said it. We did have a lot of those. Am I lost? We did have a lot of those Metro cards, which was one of the best things we did. I thought that was really great. Cool. And Paul Ascenti did that, and I used to find them places like randomly around Brooklyn. I'd be like, oh, there's a Dirty Mother Nation card. So that was something we did do well. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, by the way, did you ever notice how all of your bands are very numerical? Like Modest Tones is mathematical, and then Level 6 and District 22, and you really work the number angle.
Yeah, didn't really notice, but maybe at some point I subconsciously.
Some people could be, you know, you do math with your pencil. There's something to it.
Right. Number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe you were, you know, once again, I know you're a humble guy, so you hate these things, but you were at another level than the rest of us. So maybe you were able to say like, okay, with this band, I'm going to get better at my soloing and my backup vocals. You know, for me, it was just like, you know, let me try not to screw this up and embarrass myself. That was my big goal. that was my end goal. And, you know, we could talk more about specifically, like you said, you know, what I liked and didn't like about the band, but I think, you know, it was a lot of this, you know, it was a lot of this stuff. It was when you're not making music, and pretty much anything involved in being a band, and when you're not making music sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the second the guitar gets put down, it's now we were very lucky in that I think I can speak for myself, but I think I can speak for them as well and say that I think the 4 of us and then eventually 5 of us genuinely really liked each other, and even occasionally really genuinely loved each other like brothers. Like Dirty Mother Nation in that capacity was everything I ever wanted from a band, because there was never like, you know, I like you, but he's kind of a jerk. There were moments like that, but I can't say that, you know, there was an overarching
or anything.
Yeah, no. Until this day, I can hang out with any one of those guys, have a great time, be happy to see them, reminisce, and, you know, it's all good. But you know, when you're having a beer and you're chasing girls, that's still fun, even though you're not playing music. But the second you got to talk about, do you trust this guy? Should we sign with this guy? Do you want to play at this venue? I mean, even things just like, people don't really like, who's going to help me unpack these drums and pack these drums again? It's like, you know, dude, I sing, man, and I got it all right here. And, you know, no offense, you know, but I don't play the drums, you know? And okay, and we could argue that that's not being a very good team player, but you're 19 and you're
Those things come up, yeah.
You know,
Things come
and
up.
yeah, and or you know, it's 3 a.m. and you decided you want to talk to girls all night instead of pack up your drums. So now you want to pack them up, and I want to just go home, and I hate you. You can see the packing of the drums was a big one, because usually everything else is at the club, but the drums always suck.
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
And you know, and I'm not going to play favorites, but I'll tell you, I mean, he and I were probably closer than anybody, and his brother was in the band, Matt, obviously. I adore Matt. I adore Matt. I consider him like family. I love seeing him when he comes in. But if there was someone in the band that, you know, I disagreed with more often on serious topics, it was him. And being 2 strong personalities was hard. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, no, it's funny. I like your frankness about it. Like once the guitar goes down, everything else sucks. But I do think you guys, I have to say from an outside perspective, I think Lou would agree. I don't know if I'm wrong, but that we sense you guys had a good camaraderie. You know,
Yeah.
we thought you guys were genuinely having fun. You know, whenever I saw you guys play, it seemed like you all wanted to play,
Yeah.
you know, and you guys, Lou, what do you think? I would say Dirty Mother Nation really like to play shows more than Level 6 did.
Yes.
Like you guys like playing.
Yes.
We had to like, you know, choke each other to play a show or like have a good motivation.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would say that's somewhat accurate.
Well, who didn't want to play?
A lot of it was me.
Why?
I mean, it might have been Lou, yeah.
I don't know. I hit an early stage. Well, I've always had vocal issues, right? So acid reflux, and I had a lot of bad habits that just kind of aggravated those vocals. So like, I don't know. It was a while in because Level 6 was already like kind of up there for a number of us. I think it was like John Henry's like 5th or 6th band. It was already like my 4th. So we had already done it a bunch. And we were trying to remodel it this time from a business perspective. Like, let's do everything in order and the right way, and we're going to try and get everything accomplished. And like we had said before, we were at a weird time where everything kept changing, and the industry was in a very weird spot. So
You wanted the business to be ready for the music.
yes,
And it ended up too long, I guess.
and it wasn't. We were always kind of chasing the dragon with that. We were like one step behind. Then we did have a lot of the interpersonal problems. So, you know, a lot of what you described with Matt, and we're younger, so it was like the same type of thing. Like we do rehearsals, or we try and write songs, and then the drummer would get up, walk away, and say, "Oh, let me hear that again. Just sing it." And it's kind of like, I don't want to sing this 500 times tonight. Like I'm gonna wreck my throat. You know, and just a lot of stuff like that. Like, you know, the small little things get involved. But as far as the shows were concerned, like, I really got tired of playing in front of nobody on a Wednesday night. Like, it just, when they bait you with the, you're going to be the headliner, and you fall for it the first couple of times. You're like, all right, this is going to be better than the last one. We're going to headline, right? And you think you're big shit because you're going to headline. And then pretty much you're playing in front of the cleaning crew. And maybe your dad showed up or your mom showed up, and they're like, you know, clapping in the middle, and you're like, all right, it's time to jump off a bridge.
Girlfriend, someone's girlfriend too.
So you bring to mind a few different things. So you know, first we played our share of empty places, and I don't know if anyone who's never done that could really understand the feeling. And like you hear these things like the energy of the audience, and there's people out there who probably are like, when there's an audience, it is hard to bring your game. I mean, you need an audience because it's really, really hard to perform to an empty room. For some reason, practice is fine, but an empty show is not.
Yeah.
You know, so one thing, you know, Dirty Mother Nation, we never really grew our base, but we were really lucky to have a very strong base of people that came to almost every show. So most of the time we were pretty good. Like we weren't growing or making a name or, you know, spreading along the Eastern Seaboard or anything, but there was a good 25 to 30 people that would show up most of the time. And I got to give Sean a lot of credit for that, because he just has this like incredible base of friends that genuinely want to come out and see him. And like, I guess I just didn't make good decisions on that front in my life, because my friends were like, yeah, you know, have fun with that music thing. Let us know what you're doing tomorrow, I guess. So, you know, yeah. But the big thing that you brought up that really made my brain tingle was the vocal stuff. And I have to tell you, you know, once again, you know, you look back and you think about what you did and how you would have done it differently. And I did so many things wrong, and it was due mostly, I think, to a lack of confidence, because I wasn't confident enough to turn around and say, hey, I can't be here in rehearsal singing for 4 hours and then do the show in 2 days and sing for an hour. And anytime I did try to bring stuff up like that, I would get a lot of pushback from people in the band, and I would let them win, because it felt to me like I was a letdown. I wasn't capable. I wasn't good enough.
Right.
And growing up and going to so many more shows as a listener, and you start to learn. And so now, like, I'll be watching a show, you know, a singer sing now, and you know the high part is coming, but instead of doing they do and you go, I know why he's doing that, because he's got to do this every night. And so when I did it, when I was with Dirty Nation, I would never give myself a break. No matter how hard the next note, I had to do it just like I always do it. Why not take the lower octave that time? Why not give yourself a break? Why not let Danny sing a harmony? Why not, let someone sing the chorus along with you to add some strength? These were things I was just too self-conscious to say or think or express. And it was to my detriment, because vocals are not guitars. You do not develop a callus. You can't play for hours. You
don't just change a string in your back.
It just doesn't work like that. And you know what? There's honestly just some days where I just can't sing. I have allergies. I have some bad habits that still persist. You know, I smoke a little bit. And there's days where I just can't sing. Now I go, all right, today's not the day. Or I'll do a Tom Waits song, you know, and then that's okay. And, you know, we'll save Foreigner for tomorrow. But 20 years ago, I was just too self-conscious to say that.
Yeah, Level 6 went through 3 phases, I believe, or 4 phases. I'm not sure. We started as a band in standard tuning. And then when I will take all the responsibility on this one, I wrote the songs in a high key for my register, we would drop a half and then perform at a half. And then eventually we dropped a full step until we were in a drop C toward the end of the career. We were playing some songs that were written in standard in drop C, just so that live we had that, you know, that wiggle room.
You never found like it threw you off? Sometimes I find like I have a pretty good innate sense of what keys songs are in. Like if I wanted to like pick a song off the top of my head and start singing it, usually if I test it with the piano, I'm pretty close to the original key of the song. And so that always made me nervous to change keys of songs, because I feel like I'm still singing the old key.
Well, we used to prep for like so we didn't do that like a day ahead of time. It was literally transitional periods where it's like, all right, now we're going to do drop C. And, you know, it was like, oh, we're going to play heavier, quote unquote. And I was just so relieved.
Well, good for you to have the balls to say, let's try that, because I didn't. I think that the idea of tuning down came up a couple of times, and I think I was the one who poo-pooed it, because once again I was under this like, you know, sympathizing with the kidnapper mentality that I needed to do this and stop being a wuss and do your job, right? Instead of saying, hey, Lonny, maybe physically this is what suits your voice and you should do that. You know, I just didn't have the confidence to say that.
I think the other problem is me and you had one similar problem, and you mentioned him before. We had Chris Cornell. So I used to write a lot of stuff that was hearing his voice, like while I was writing it. And meanwhile, we're not the same person. I don't want to turn around and take the statement back. I mean, I really, truly don't remember making that statement, but I do not have Chris Cornell's register.
You must have been taking the piss out of me. But you were good. No, but you did have a really great range from what I remember. I mean, you were capable, you were good. And I remember you were really good at playing things that were not like I'm good at playing things that support the vocal melody while singing. But I remember you were good at, like, you could play an independent riff while singing, which to this day is not something I can really do. Like,
thank you.
If my hand is doing one thing, I can't be singing something totally in a different time. I get all mixed up with that. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, and I'll say this, and you know, maybe you guys have done more research on this, you know, but there's something about singing loud and high that feels really
fantastic.
Good in a very, like, cathartic way. And so, like, I've done shows where, like, maybe my voice wasn't in great condition, so I just did the whole show very controlled. You know, I don't know, you know, you should feel my love ain't real, instead of if you should feel, you know, just, you know. And if I feel bored, and I feel bored on behalf of the audience, and I feel like I've let them down, and that it wasn't great because I didn't belt it. Like, I do feel like it feels boring without it. And so I force myself to do it. And then you see people like, you know, I don't know, what's the guy who covered how Rufus Wainwright, you know, he's got a very, there was a secret, and that's kind of his thing, and he always does it, and people love it. But when it comes to me, I feel like people want to hear, and the wreck of you.
Yep.
You know?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, just so you feel a little better about the feeling beat up thing, I read the Bruce Dickinson autobiography recently. Bruce Dickinson, the famed singer of Iron Maiden, who I modeled my, you know, Chris Cornell was your guy. For me, it was Axl Rose, Bruce Dickinson, a little bit, of course, James Hetfield. But the early James Hetfield, where he was screaming up really high, like, na na na, you know, that.
I have a hard time any of that.
You know, so those are my models, which, you know, just like Chris Cornell's stratospheric, it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
But so our it was really great, the part in Bruce Dickinson's autobiography when he describes how he was like this ordinary singer, just copying like the 70s vocal style of this guy and that guy. And then at some point he decided, let me try an octave up. No, the producer he was working with said, "What? Try that an octave higher." He's like, "Really?" And he did a little falsetto, but some chest, and he was just able to do it. And then everyone said, "Yeah, that's great." And that was like the Bruce Dickinson voice that we know and love. And he felt like crap afterwards. He's like, "Oh man, that hurt so bad." But everyone loved it. He's like, "Oh no, now I got to do that." And then, like, he remembered some guidance he had heard about, like, certain breathing techniques and making your tongue like a toad, like really flat in order to open it more and project the sound more strongly. So he just started applying these techniques and really caring for his vocals, you know, with diet. But he said after every rehearsal, after every performance, he felt like someone beat the crap out of him, like truly, like almost like he was in a boxing match. Like, it never really got easier. He said, "Okay, that's the life I signed up for," you know.
You know what's funny is, like, that I find that really comforting and really disconcerting at the same time, because it's comforting because it's nice to know that someone like that could feel the same way that we felt, right? But at the same time, I was always waiting for that goddamn moment where a producer would tell me, do this, and suddenly it magically came out like Bruce Dickinson. I don't know about you guys. I was always waiting for that. I know one day I'm just going to squeeze it the right way and it's going to come out like magic. And it never happened, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you hear those stories. I hate hearing those stories. It was a similar one with Chris Cornell. I remember reading that they were in a band and he was the drummer.
Yep.
Right? Imagine that. So then he transitions to singing and drumming. And I think it was the bass player was like, could you just, like, get it like a little higher, like a couple more notes? And then, like, they realized, like, this guy has virtually no limit to his voice. It's unbelievable. Like, you know, and so reading those stories though is horrible because I spend my life in my bathroom. My parents must have thought that I was either a fiend or a maniac, you know, just screaming at the top of my lungs, waiting for it to hit in a way that is going to be long lasting and usable. And it never happened. It never really happened. Not in that way.
Yeah, and they always tell you to do the clenching motion, and then you think something else is gonna happen.
Right.
You push really hard, and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna get dangerous."
I wonder sometimes if some of the stomach issues I have is from like years of contracting that muscle. And I'll tell you one other thing that you kind of made me think of was when I had kids, I used to sing them to sleep, when they were really young. And you were talking about where you use your voice from, right? The mixing of the head voice into this. And so I had my regular voice which was essentially like my speaking voice in song. And then I had like another way I could kind of break my voice into a higher register, but it was very unreliable and needed to be, very cautiously watched. And then when I had kids, I was like kind of tenderly singing songs to them, but in a way that it was like kind of like under my breath. So like, almost like once there was a way, where it's like, it's not coming from here or here. It's like coming from like very high up, I don't know where the hell it's coming from, but somewhere high up. And once I was able to do that, it actually changed the way I sing in real life, because it gave me access to like a higher register of notes that I wasn't able to hit without screaming, where I learned that trying less, almost not trying at all, and letting everything stay super duper relaxed gave me access to notes that I didn't have. So, it's such a physical and emotional journey, and it's vindicating, but it has helped me sing. And what it's helped me to do is stay relaxed during points where I used to be tense, so that now I can get even higher than I used to be able to.
Right.
So it's been an amazing thing. And it's great actually talking about it, because 99.9% of the population at this point in the conversation is like, you're losing me with your talking about where it's coming from and stuff, but I think you guys kind of get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're all all three of us are singers too, right? So yeah.
Spend so much time thinking about your throats.
Oh, tremendous amount of time.
I'm thirsty, I'm dry, I'm sore. Today I'm sore, today I'm not sore. Like, I don't think people realize how much we think about our voices.
I used to make the super teas with tons of honey, and then I'd have holes in my mouth at the same time. And then I take like a peppermint thing, and then, oh yeah, it was crazy.
So at one point, and just tell me if I'm talking too much. I know it's my interview, but this feels like I'm, just being, too much. At one point we had played a show and I blew it out completely, blew myself out completely, to the point where I think we had a birthday party and I was like, happy birthday to you. Like, it couldn't, nothing could come out anymore. And I was like, I wonder if I'm done forever. Like, did I break it? And so I ended up going to a vocal coach, and that I think Matt had recommended him, but this guy was teaching Bono. And now, once again, this is Lonny torturing himself, not knowing how to have the confidence to say there's other options out there. No, Lonny has to do the hardest possible way. So I found this guy who was like $150 an hour in the heart of Manhattan, who, no, maybe for half an hour. He had gold records with Bono and Bon Jovi on the wall. He had the opposite of patience for this horrible, hoarse kid showing up. And he gave me some vocal exercises, and he got me singing again, because I had never warmed up in my entire life. I had no idea what a warm up was, how it worked, none of the above. And I remember saying something to him like, they really want me to hit a B flat in one of these songs. You think we can make that happen? And he got furious. He says, why don't you tell them to do something on their instrument, and they need something. This is your instrument, and this is how it works. And it was eye-opening. I mean, I probably should have just found some like local guy for $50. It probably would have been a very similar end result, which was nothing. I don't even know where I was going with all that, but it was a really stressful. It was not relaxing at all. But he did teach me a few things that to this day I use. If I'm feeling like I got to sing and I'm not ready, I have some warm-ups that I could use, and hallelujah, all that stuff. But it was.
Yeah, so Marie wrote in the chat, the day of a show, no talking, lemons, tea, honey. I remember those days, she wrote.
So, okay, that's what it was. He was the one who told me none of it. no tea, no lemon, no honey. All it does is create a stickiness that basically is like a net for germs and bacteria. You're just warm water, just warm water, like nothing else. Dude, I was drinking like a throat coat while with halls dropped in there.
Yep.
You know what that tastes like?
I do.
Death.
Yeah,
I know what it tastes
I'm
like.
good about it.
I still remember it. Apple cider vinegar in tea. I mean, everything. And you know what I finally realized, by the way? I wasn't, I finally realized I didn't need a cleanse or dirt. I needed to stop hurting myself and heal. It wasn't that my throat was filled with toxins. I wasn't like Marie Callas. I was basically opening up a wound in my throat and never letting it heal. You know what I'm saying? Like, so until you learn to sing better and relax your throat and not end every show hoarse. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that a show would be over and I could still say, "Hey, what's going on? Can I get a beer?" It used to be the show was over and I'd be like, "Thank you, good night." I could barely even talk.
We used to try everything. John, remember that time in rehearsal? He caught on. So every single time we were rehearsing, I'd have 2 Heinekens. Every time. And then finally John looks at me one day. He just like, and he was trying to be a smartass too. He just turned slightly, looked at me and he goes, "You rehearsing drinking 2 beers every time?" I went, "Yes." I was practicing being able to get drunk while I sing.
So this guy was no alcohol, no smoking. And then one time I got there and he said to me, "Are you wearing cologne?" Yeah, I mean, I came from work. He said, "Don't ever wear cologne in this room again." And people are really serious about their voices, and I mean, I don't know what the difference was, but it didn't. I wasn't a big drinker. I would definitely not smoke before the shows. And all I would do is I would do like maybe 1 or 2 shots of whiskey right before going on stage, because it just makes you feel like you're the coolest dude in the room. And that me at that moment.
Man,
so there's a job of the singer, right? The guitarist has to play the guitar, the drummer has to play the drums, but the singer could be David Lee Roth, right? Your job is to bring what they're doing to the people. Mm-hmm. And you could be Maynard, or once again, you could be Tom Waits. Either way, it's fine. But your job is to bring those people to the music. No one wants to go see an instrumental rock band unless you also are in an instrumental rock band. And there's some guys out there that really love, like, they want to go see, Gary Morse or whatever. That was never me. I'm sure there's people who like that, but the majority of people cannot wait for the singer to open his mouth and engage them. And, I felt like that was my job. Even if I wasn't singing great, you got to give them the show. And the whiskey helped.
Yeah, and I have to say, Lonny, you definitely did bring your A game to the best of your ability every time, and I sensed it, and the crowd certainly sensed it. You were just pouring your heart out in the way you knew how.
We used to sweat,
what else
man.
Can you do?
You'd sweat your face off. But I can remember one time I came off stage and John Henry was there, and I think it was a pretty empty show. So John must have been like one of the few people that was there at that time. And I came off and I said, "Hey man, thank you so much for coming." He's like, and it's going to sound like a left-handed compliment, but it was very John, and it was not taken in any way but complimentary. Something like, "When did you start singing on key the whole time?"
Oh my God.
And I know what it sounds like, because if you didn't know me and John, you'd be like, "That's a shitty thing to say." But John literally sat through my off-key singing for hours and hours and knew that it was a struggle for me and knew that was work for me to hear and do it right. And so hearing him say it actually made me go home very warm and fuzzy. Like, John heard me sing on key. John knows that I'm not just some idiot kid that was wasting his time, that I genuinely listened and tried to get better.
I appreciate stories like that. Like, see, I would certainly not remember that particular story, Lonny, but thank you. I can vaguely put it together now. But I'm sure that I know that might sound a little callous, but the reason I would say something like that is thinking, like, if I was trying to improve, I would want someone to clearly tell me I improved, so I think that was where I was coming from.
It was. was. I also think like you remember everything people tell you that's bad. Every single insult you remember. And I'd say you probably remember like 1 out of 10 of the compliments. And you know, like how many times have you come off stage and someone was like, "You were so good," and you catch yourself being like,
Ugh.
"Yeah, ugh." Don't you hate that person? You have to catch yourself, I'm sorry. Thank you. Because you know, it's so easy to just be like, "I suck. I'm the worst." And meanwhile, you're doing what they wish they could do. Okay, it's not Madison Square Garden, but some people just want to be able to play an E chord. Just teach me how to play Wild Thing, you know, and you're up there doing it. And they love it.
That's a good point. I never looked at it that way. I never really appreciated compliments that well. I didn't take them well at all.
How embarrassing is it though? It's hard. It's embarrassing when people like gush over you, right? I mean, and I don't know about you. I never feel worthy of the gush. I mean, I always feel like you must be maybe not that smart, I guess, because I'm not that good.
Yeah, at every point in my career, I knew at least 5, 6 people that were ahead of me, and I was constantly trying to get to that level. So for most people to come over and compliment, I felt like it was, I don't know if I thought it was insincere, and it was my own ignorance of the fact that they don't know, you know, that I'm trying to be something that I can't get to. Like, but yeah, I never took well to it either.
I have this funny feeling. So I was a musician, and then I started working at T-Mobile. And so when I started working at T-Mobile, people hear you're in a band and you're the singer of the band, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's funny and it's cool." And so I always had this feeling that to them, I was legitimately a musician, but to everybody else who didn't know me, you know, who knew me my whole life on a personal level, I was a fake musician. I mean, this is literally how I felt. Like if you knew me, you saw Lonny's hacking it. Lonny's doing the best he can, but he's hacking it. But then I met these people, and it gave me like a very new level of confidence because they didn't know that there was ever a time where I wasn't good. And so then we would have like an event, and they'd be like, "Hey, don't you sing? Why don't you go up?" And I ended up singing and getting like a hugely positive reaction that reverberates years later, that people come up to me like, "You were the guy who sang that time at the event, right?" And it's very vindicating because it sometimes feels like a mask with other people, and with them, it's like it feels real. I feel real. You know, I don't know. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were your families? So I know John, yours was, but was your family supportive, Lou?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were extremely. Growing up, the second I was interested in something new, as long as it was constructive, my father got it for me pretty much immediately. And he really, because he always wanted to be a musician, and instead he became a computer programmer. So he never, it was only a few years ago, actually, me and my brother chipped in and bought him a guitar. And then he kind of gave it up like immediately. He was just like, it's not for me. But yeah, and my grandfather, so his father was a professional saxophone player.
Wow.
So it actually did kind of run in the family, and my uncle was also a performer, but he did more like Broadway type stuff. So it did run in the family, but it didn't hit my father, and then apparently it skipped a generation and came to me.
Right.
So he was always very, but it was weird. There were certain things he wasn't supportive with. So I think I did a lot of damage to my throat, and I'm not blaming him, but because he felt like we should learn by ear. A real musician plays by ear and then learns the theory. So he would never send me for lessons, whether it be vocal, guitar. It was like, here you go, stay in a room, learn how to play. So my first like maybe 4 or 5 years of playing was strictly ear. And yeah.
It's funny how these made up systems, you know, are inflicted upon us that have no real bearing in life. I can remember my mom saying something like, I think there was a little bit of vibrato in something I was doing, and she said, "Did you do the vibrato on purpose, or did it happen?" And I said, "I'm not really sure." Well, if you did it on purpose, it doesn't really count. You know, silly things that don't really, matter. But
so did she mean it was supposed to be natural?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Or and maybe maybe it wasn't even me singing because my cousin was trying to sing, and I remember it was like a big talk, like, is her vibrato natural? And like in retrospect, it's like, What are
Did
we
that
talking
even
about?
matter?
No, does it matter? I don't think it does. So I'm not going to say that my family was not supportive because they weren't unsupportive, but it was definitely treated as very unimportant, very secondary, and very unrealistic. You're not a musician. None of us are musicians. I don't. My mom's brother was a musician, but he had passed away when he was 18. I'd never had the chance to meet him. And so I think that also played into it. I think that seeing me walking around with a guitar made some people in the family feel a bad sense of deja vu.
Oh,
Okay, so like, yeah, his demise was not great. So I think maybe it was like, let's not encourage that. And just in general, like, they thought I didn't have the talent to do it. Right. My mom thought for sure that I was funny. My mom thought for sure that I was, I could be on stage. But when it came to music, it was very much seen as like I would be told all the time, like, can you just stop? Just tell jokes. Just be a comic. Just go up and be a stand-up comedian. Like, why are you doing that when you could just easily do this? And what's funny is that I love being funny, and I mean, I'm not delusional. I realize that I make people laugh. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not funny. So I make people laugh, but I never once felt the urge to get up and do that for a crowd. That's always been like, we're just having a conversation, and I thought of something funny, but I wanted to play guitar and sing in front of a crowd. And it was very much seen as like, whatever, he'll get it. He'll get over that pretty quick, I'm sure. And I think it wasn't even till like, it has to be like, I don't know what family members are watching, but it's got to be pretty recent, like within the last 5 to 10 years, that I've heard my mom say things that would indicate she believes I can sing. Like,
oh man.
not well, not talented, not well, but like she'll say something like, oh, you sang that song nicely. Yeah, it would be like something like that. So it also felt very much like an uphill battle in my home. No one wanted to hear it. Sister certainly wanted me to shut the hell up. And I, my dad, I remember, like, I think I could remember him coming over and saying something like, I recognize that song. That was a Jethro Tull song. And I was like, all right, he recognized the song. I must be somewhere in the neighborhood of playing it correctly. But the positive reinforcement was not really there. It had to come from within. And it goes back to teaching our kids, I think, because if I had been listening to my parents, I would have stopped.
If it makes you feel any better, my brother always told me, if you have a choice to sing or just make the music, you make really good music. So my brother, who's the closest person to me, my brother James, he never, ever thought I was a good singer and was very vocal about that.
Yeah, I agree. And I had friends around me that, Phil Koenig was a good singer and he was known to sing. And man, I mean, I think like going back to the very first question, right? Maybe it was 15 or 16 that I started to sing, but there was a good 2 or 3 years before that where I was coveting any singer around me, and watching and wanting to be it and have the confidence for it. And being able to do it now is a pretty proud moment. Like, obviously I'm not, and this is the comfort of being 39, right? I'm not Chris Cornell. I'm not even Eddie Vedder, but I can do my thing. I can post some videos on Facebook and people are gonna like it and ask for more and tell me how much they enjoyed it. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when you think about the fact that one day I was 13, had no guitar, no idea how to play, and no reason to think I could. And now I can go play a show if someone wants me to. It feels like amazing when you see it, the whole journey.
I've never hit that point. John's been doing that since I've known him.
What?
I've still never done an acoustic show, just me and a guitar. It's too naked for me. Not enough
Really?
effects. Not enough. My guitar playing's not clean enough. Like, I don't have distortion to hide certain things. So I just I shy away from it. I've never really been that great of an acoustic player. If you give me a whammy and a bunch of like, and you know, guitar with really low action, a lot of distortion and effects, then I can fake my way through it.
I
But
can't believe. See, you and I are such different approaches to the singer guitarists. I don't think I've ever I don't know if I've ever played an electric guitar on stage. I had an electric guitar that got waterlogged a couple of years ago, and I never ended up replacing it. I've been 99% acoustic from the day I picked up a guitar, and anytime I pick up an electric, it feels wrong to me. I gotta have the acoustic in my hands. There's something about it. And as much as I love Dirty Mother Nation, I think that the solo thing is more accurate to who I am. And if I had my dream, it would be I would teach someone how to play my songs, and I could just sing them, and someone else would play the guitar, and I could maybe jump in here and there if I want to, but I don't have to play the guitar, because I think I'm a much better singer when I don't have to think about the guitar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be my dream situation.
Cool. Just want to chime in on the this family support thing. Yes, there's no doubt to say my mother's been very supportive of me as a musician, and I guess my other aunts, uncles, my grandmother on both sides, basically generally supportive. Like, yeah, go John. If I did a nice song, yeah, you sang that nicely. But my mom was always proud of me. She got me the lessons. She's the one who told me that, John, if you got to play music, if you're going to play guitar, she didn't like heavy metal ever. Says, if you're going to play guitar, you got to learn every style. That's how you play guitar. You have to play every style. So that's kind of, I guess I took that to heart, and I kind of tried to learn as many styles as I could.
Another strange institution that's not really true, but an actually beneficial one compared to the ones that we got.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like, of course. I mean, I don't know where she got that idea from, but she told me, I'm like,
she's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And also she said, you got to learn how to read music. So that was that was her approach. And I learned how to read music. And, but to be truly, to paint the picture more realistically, whenever I sang, especially heavy metal, she was always like, really wanted me to shut up, or like, oh God, not again, or you sound like a dying cat, or that whole thing. And there's years of that before she was like, oh, that's very pretty, And my brother took many, many years before he gave me anything close to a compliment. Like, that isn't the worst song I ever heard, or something like that,
I remember those.
So he was, as much as he could, he was just there. His job was to put me down so that I would want to do it more. That's kind of like his role. And I'm sure it helped, like, oh, F you, I'll show you,
Well, so then what happened? I'm sorry, well, you keep going.
Yeah, no. So it just to kind of paint a more clear picture, I definitely had plenty of support, probably a lot more than most people from my mom. But it was in a balance, and certainly the singing. And she didn't like the style of guitar I was doing. She thought it was so annoying when I was playing the scale. She's like, "Oh, stop it!" She hated when I was tuning, because I tuned guitar all the time. She's like, "Oh, would you just play the song already?
So
tune every time,
That's kind of similar, and you know what it led to for me, and it's a habit I still have to this day, is that if whoever happens to be in the room with me, I find myself trying to pick songs that they're gonna like. So, if my mom was in the kitchen and I happened to be playing in the living room that day, then maybe I would pick out a song by the Hollies or the Beatles or something. And then if my dad was hanging out, I'd do a Jethro Tull song. And if my sister was there, maybe I would try to play a Madonna song, because I always just try to at least be like, if you have the misfortune of being in this room with me, I can do my best to make it a more positive experience for you. And then, the other thing I'm thinking is that, like, we keep talking about our moms and dads like we're 15 still, but the truth is we're all married now, right? And so I don't know about you, but then you have to, I guess, demonstrate for your wife what it sounds like when you're practicing for the first time.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know about you guys, but part of my process is I start off sounding really bad, like almost purposely bad. Like, let's say I'm working on getting the guitar part right. I'm gonna sing however it comes out, and if that's being like
Yes.
or if it's like however I need to get my fingers, right. And so there's been many times where my wife has like come up to me after a show, not even at the practice in the house, after the show, and was like, that was so much better than what you did in the house. I can't even express it to you. Like, I was worried in the house. I was a little
Thank
worried.
goodness, right? She was worried.
I was worried in the house. And then so this day she'll say to people like, when Lonny plays a show, something happens that is just very different than it happens. And I'm fine with it. I don't doubt it, because I know in the house it's awful. It's just awful. And especially if I'm writing a song and this poor woman has to hear me like, hear this, is this the right? It's like, and she's hearing it over and over and over. I mean, the poor woman has the patience of a saint, and she's hearing me, whine like a dying cat. But at least she gets to hear that it does come together. I know it sounds crazy, but it comes together in the end. And that was something that, I was like married we were together for a year or two, and I was like, I'm going to have to be free. We live together, right? So I can't always sound good, or else that's not going to be helpful to my growth as a musician.
Yeah, most people don't realize that musicians fleshing out songs sound pretty much like someone with Tourette's having a seizure.
It's awful.
We all do that. It's like the faces you make when you play guitar too. Like you'll.
I mean, I've gotten into recording everything. So if I'm writing a song, I record pretty much every single time I play it, because you never know that one time you sang it a little different and you can't quite remember how you did it, but it was so good. And so I've gotten very OCD about it, and I just record everything. So this poor woman just hears, 30 versions of a verse, not even a verse, a chorus, maybe a line. She hears like it over and over. There have been very few occasions where she'll come into the room and be like, you got to move on. I need you to try a different part. The part's good. I just can't hear you play it again.
That's funny. Yeah. Marrying a musician is,
takes guts.
It's going to challenge anybody.
Has songwriting gotten harder or easier for you guys over the years?
What was that again?
Has songwriting gotten easier or harder for you over the years?
John, you answer first.
All right. Yeah, I thought you might pass on me. I was. It's weird. I mean, it's a good question. It's weird to think about. So I mean, I won't say harder, but it's certainly a lot less frequent. So for me, what's happened over the years is I've accumulated so many songs and recordings that I feel like unless I find a way to release a lot of these songs into the public, I won't have room for new songs, because my justification is if I'm not releasing what I've created, why do I even create any more? Because if they're not, the world's not going to hear them. And so I was considering for a while, like writing songs and trying to get them into movies and TV. And I tried it for a little while, and I just gave that up because, it depends on what people demands, I just want to write from my heart and how I want to write.
Right.
So I didn't pursue that. But so I'm a person who puts out music and then just shares it as I can in very organic, grassroots ways. I just put out an album this year, which is a collection of old songs. I put an album out October 2019, which is a collection of old songs. And I still have a few more in the pipeline before I feel like kind of clear to create new stuff. So if I have a reason to write, like a request, then I could probably do it pretty
do you
smoothly.
Keep all your songs? Do you keep them, or once you've recorded them and you've laid them down, do you kind of just leave it and that's that? Do you still play them, perform them, dust them off every so often?
Right. Well, I just did this I think you might have caught one or two shows. I did 8 weeks in a row of live stream shows. And I tried to cover songs from every album. I didn't do the Fun Winter Songs album because that would have been ridiculous. But I tried to cover as many songs as I could that I wrote and covers from certain eras. And so I was polishing them off just to see if I could play them. A lot of
Yeah.
them I didn't relate to, but I just wanted. So I can play if I put an hour into it. I could play virtually any song I wrote, like a John Henry Sheridan song. I don't know about a
Right, right.
level 6 song or a beating cast song. I don't know about that, but John Henry Sheridan song I could play if I put in an hour of listening and then figuring things out, and more or less I could. So I have, I don't know, close to 100 songs that I could play if I wanted to.
So,
By memory, probably 3.
yeah.
Uh, everything is always looking at paper right now.
Isn't forgetting your own song the oddest thing on earth? Like, is there anything weirder than forgetting your own song? It's very strange, isn't it?
It's strange.
Like, I remember Paul Ascenti like found a recording, and he sent it to me, and I'm like, I did that. I wrote that. I like it. You know, it's really strange. Like you would think it's almost impossible to forget something like that, but
Oh, it's possible.
Yeah. Or sometimes, you know, like you break out a song you haven't played in a while, and you get to the bridge, and you're like, how the hell do I play this bridge? I have no recollection of it.
Yeah, no idea. No idea.
And then you give it like 3 days, and suddenly you're half awake, and you're like, C major 7.
Right.
Yeah, I have found for me, and once again, I think this goes back to the conversation of like fitting in where you're needed. Nobody wrote words. Everybody was writing music. Nobody was writing words. So I found my niche early on was I'm the word guy. And if you remember, you might remember, I used to show up places with like a big folder of words, you know, like printed and written and just massive amount of lyrics. And now I'm happy to write all the music all day long. I don't know if I feel like saying anything anymore. You know, it's become a strange thing. I'm really happy to write the music. When it comes time to writing the words, it feels kind of hokey sometimes. I mean, first of all, I love my wife. I've done the love song thing a few times, but you know, that's a limited amount, and I'm not going to write about a love affair that's not happening. You know, so I mean, you know, so I'm going to write. You know, no one wants to hear a love song to someone's wife. Like that's, you know. It's not very exciting. I don't know. No one wants to hear about cell phones, I'm guessing. So a lot of the things that I encounter in my everyday life, I guess are rather uninspiring for lyrics. You know, a little bit about the kids, you know, about stuff like that, or politics. But I do find it harder to think of what I want to say these days than it used to be.
I've always found it very, very easy to write a lot of stuff, whether it be taken in a poetic stance or like an article stance, but I've always found it really challenging to phonetically fit with the music.
Really?
I've got books and books and books of stuff that I've just written. I write all day long. I still do it. I just write anything that comes out of the top of my head. My brother was the same way too. Like some of my lyrics actually came from my brother. Not many of them that I used, but
that's cool.
He used to write a lot of stuff as well. But then once I sit with the music and then I look at what I wrote, I phonetically always had a problem making it work in time or the delivery on top of it. And then I'd have to just write bare to the music. And
Did you
it
have
happened to
trouble
me every time.
writing melodies in general, or just making words fit the melodies?
I always had an easy time with melodies. I never had an easy time separating the vocal from the melody, if that makes sense. I think John knows because he's sat with me a few times doing this stuff.
I can remember Paul Ascenti used to tell me, because there were times that I would bring a prepackaged lyric and shoehorn it into a song.
Yes.
And then there were times where I would compose a new lyric to a new piece of music. And I remember Paul Ascenti used to tell me, I like it better when you shoehorn it in, because you end up with things like an extra enunciation of something. Whereas like if it's, you know, I am man, you know, you're going to do that because that's what the music is. But let's say he'd been trying to say, you know, I am, you know, I don't know, I am adamantium man. You know, if you had chosen a different metal, you would have got those da-da-da-da-das, you know, those other little eighth notes in the middle, right? So he used to really like that, you know, don't fit the music. Try shoehorn something in because it gives you something unexpected on the
yeah,
podcast.
You're changing the timing and the phonetic delivery of everything that's in there.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, I also, you made me think is, it's funny how laymen don't ever give credit to people who write melodies. They recognize the singer can sing, They recognize the guitarist can guitar, but they don't ever think about someone came to you with music and you made it sound like that. Like Robert Plant is probably a really good example of someone who's brilliant at composing a melody that does not mirror the guitars, which I hate. I mean, Iron Man is an example of it done well, but there's just so many examples.
Yeah, it's cheesy for the most part.
You know, kind of like Deep Purpley, you know, I play it, you sing the same thing, and we're gonna, you know, and I don't think the layman realizes how difficult that is for someone to come to you with dun 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 dun, and you have to go, tell me what you wanted me to be. You know, that wasn't there. I put that there.
And I'll show you everything I am. Was that the line?
You are. That was just everything you are. And I'll show you everything you are. You know, but people don't think that when Paul wrote it, or Dan, you know, I think it was together. But you know, they come to me with dun 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 dun. Okay, which is cool, but it's not a chorus. You need a melody. And it's funny is I don't think the layman ever stop and think, oh, how am I gonna, you know, how do you sing that? You have to do that. It's a very often overlooked thing that singers don't get enough credit for.
Yeah. Or the songwriter, right? Whoever is the songwriter.
Right. And it's a hard thing. I mean, I could write chord progressions all day, and now that I've got a pretty decent grounding in music theory, I could probably write chord progressions all day because, you know, there's enough rules you could follow and come up with something decently interesting. But if I don't start humming within a few seconds of writing something, I'm probably not going to keep writing.
It's going to be a tough time.
Yeah. There's some stuff where I hit it and you go, no. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And your whole body's like, yes. You know, that universe is opened up. And, you know, I've heard it described in so many ways, like, you know, it's flying by your window and you just reach out and grab it. Or, you know, sometimes I think of it as like a gigantic piece of marble. And I know there's something in there, but I'm not quite sure what it looks like. So I got to just keep chipping until I find exactly what it looks like in there. But if that melody's not there, I'm not going to keep going.
Well, I'll share kind of what, that's pretty interesting what you're saying, hearing your perspective, Lonny, on songwriting. And I do remember Lou's wrestling with vocal melodies. And for me, you know, it was flabbergasting for me because that didn't happen to me. You know, I would just choose it and go with it. And I would come up with ideas, but Lou was, you know, he was a bit fickle with what he was going to sing. Like, if it's not, I don't sing that, John. That's a John melody. That's not level 6. That's not what Lou.
I'm moving to a charger.
I respected that because he had to do it what was right, appropriate for him. But I'll say, as I got older, Lonny, I also agree that writing words is just very unappealing to me. In terms of like writing a serious song or like a John Henry Sheridan folk singer song. Similar to Lou, I'm constantly writing ideas, but not songs. But when I put a very tight rule to what I'm going to write, then I could write a lot. So I began in 2013 to write a lot of, I don't want to call them kid songs, but kid-friendly songs, you know, like Marching Marshmallows and Laser Star and this whole series that went with my single-string songs. And I have several songs for every season. And I said, if I'm going to create a melody that could be easily played on an open string of a guitar, that's going to, and I'm only going to use 8th notes maximum, no 16th notes. I'm not really going to use dotted notes. So the melody is going to be a little bit square and use a lot of open strings, which is kind of an unnatural way of singing a song if you just come up with a melody vocally. So I just restricted it to coming up with it on a single string. So it shaped the different melodies. So I was just, by making that rule, those simplifications, I was able to create a lot of material and then put some slightly interesting chords behind, try not to put the predictable chords only, add some slightly off color chords. Mm-hmm. And then I would write words that were kid-friendly that would speak to a theme. And by doing that, I was able to pump out a lot of songs. So I did many, many songs, but they're in like this genre of
kid music.
I don't know, family friendly. Yeah,
Yeah.
kid. I think like kid rock would be the best to call it, but you just can't call it that, right?
Do you
And
feel
kid
as
metal's a little bit.
do you feel as emotionally invested in those songs as you do some of your more serious material, like John Fogerty and Daddy?
Not nearly. No. So it's like a totally different expression. You know, I try to include it because it's there and it has a purpose. And some people do like it. You know, certainly young people like it. But it's a weird thing I've been wrestling with because I don't create stuff that came out of that John Henry Sheridan folk singer style. I don't really create new stuff like that anymore. That's not where I've been for a while. I don't know when I'll get back to that, if ever. There's a lot of unfinished songs, a lot of songs people still haven't heard yet. So
Well,
we'll see.
I've definitely heard that theory of like, inspiration through limitation, because there's nothing more intimidating than a blank page. So now if instead of a blank page, you say, well, it's going to be in C and it's going to be pretty simple and it's going to, whatever, all those things. Well, now you got somewhere. And once you start, it's a lot easier to finish. Which, speaking of which, I would say is kind of my big challenge is I don't finish songs anymore. I write it like 75, 80%, really like it, totally happy, just don't feel any need to finish it. And I guess by finish it, I mean like write down official lyrics, put a little title at the top and say, this is the complete package, which is something I was super passionate about in the past. But so now I write, a lot of a song. Someone wants to hear it, I could probably play it for them and they would feel it was more or less complete. But I don't know, I have trouble getting to that point of feeling like this is a complete work of art the way I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know why. I think the lyric thing is part of it. I don't know. I guess maybe when you're in your 20s, it's easier to feel like, I don't know, you're allowed to just talk about whatever you want. Whereas like at 39, maybe I just feel like more responsible. Like if I'm going to say something, I should mean it. I should probably know about it. I should have something to say. And maybe I'm just putting so much pressure on it that I've stagnated it. I don't know.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah. I still very much love the process. And I also do feel like it's a muscle. So once I write one song, I end up writing another. So I'll stop for 6 months, but then I write one and then a whole bunch more start pouring out. Like they've been waiting for me to wake back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also I think I really enjoy switching between piano and guitar. Sometimes even during the play it once on the piano, then go and play it on the guitar. Now play it on the piano, now play it on the guitar. And that really changes the songwriting process a lot in a positive way because you kind of get out of that muscle memory of where you want to go.
So we've got this is a show. I mean, I don't know if you guys mind if I just post this is number 5 and then Thursday will be number 6.
I was gonna say that a little while ago, but I was like, you know what? It's actually just flowing. I'm not gonna interrupt and say it's almost 2 hours.
Has it been 2 hours? No way.
Yeah, we've been on for a while.
I'm happy to do it again Thursday. Whatever you guys want to do.
Well, the thing is, John didn't get to ask his actual questions, so we're gonna have to do it Thursday.
So today was a very long warm up.
Unless you feel spent, unless you need to rest your vocal cords.
Come on. Nobody loves talking like this guy. And this reminds me of when we used to hang out, right? Like this is what it was. So John had a really bad business model. John was a terrible businessman because he would let me come to his house, pay him for a half an hour lesson, and then basically sit there for 9 hours watching all this music happen and learning from them. You should have charged me to sit there. That would have made more sense because that half an hour was I learned this much, and the rest of the night I learned like that much, from being a part of it. But I remember we used to just talk and talk and talk, and I can remember standing in your doorway for like a half an hour with my guitar on my back, and we would just talk and talk and talk, and it's nice.
I tell a lot of people now when they ask, how'd you get to a certain point, and when you were learning, how'd you learn, who'd you learn from, and I talk about John Henry's basement like it was legendary, because everybody used to go down there And every night it was something different that forced you to be constructive. And I mean,
Yep.
some of it I still laugh at now, like the coloring books. But the other days, like when we had like the dirty poetry nights where we just hang
Okay.
out, we'd have a couple of beers and just write the worst stuff we possibly could. No matter
Yeah.
what, there was always something constructive, and there were always people there that were better than you at doing these certain things. So
Yeah.
you were always trying to get better, and you were always watching other people and catching on to how they were doing it. And like,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been even half the musician if I didn't hang out and spend a lot of hours down there.
I remember John was the first one to try to, make me take a solo. And to this day, by the way, I don't solo. Like, that's just not how I play guitar. And once again, this is so. At that time, it was, oh my God, he's going to make me solo. I'm so embarrassed. I'm going to die. Whereas now, it would just be like, hey man, I don't like to make it cry or sing. I'm like Dire Straits, right? I'm strictly rhythm. But I don't know if you've ever seen the look on John's face where he's too nice to like laugh at you, but you played something really bad, like you tossed
he did it to me. Me and him have a level of comfort after
He
so
was
many
very,
years.
very kind to me, and I remember he was like, "All right, your turn." And I don't know, I just decided to just do a million weird double stops all over the guitar. And bing, 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 bing. I can picture it like it was yesterday, and John just kind of went, "Okay." But that was John, just ridiculously encouraging. Whereas other people laughed at you and made you feel like you're a big idiot and you suck and you're never going to make it. It was a very warm and encouraging environment. Even with guys telling you that they could sing better than Chris Cornell, it was still not. It was always very encouraging. You know what I meant to ask you? Whatever happened to? There was another dude that used to come by and he worked in the movie theater. And like I feel like everybody else I've seen on Facebook and stuff over the years, but I've never seen that dude again.
Mike Barish?
Yes, I think no. He had a ponytail.
Mike Barish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike
Yeah,
Barish, yeah.
what happened to that guy?
He lives in Philadelphia now, I think.
Yeah, I used to see him at the UA, and I used to see him at John's house, and he was a good dude. And I feel like everybody, like Robert Benson and all these other people I've seen on Facebook and all that, but he was one I never saw again. I can clearly remember him playing "Can't Change Me" by Chris Cornell when it first came out. Remember that song?
Actually, I just checked. He's actually in Florida now.
No, he was a good dude.
Yeah, he moved recently.
He was on.
I just got in touch with him, and it's amazing. Like Mike Barish was someone who used to hang out he was like a staple of the basement, at those days. And I remember many years passed, not a word between us. And then I took a trip to Staten Island a few years ago, and I saw a bar that we played at when there was a band. One of my bands was called the Twilight Zone Blues Band. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was just a 3-piece. It was Rob Benson, Mike Barish, and myself. Mike was on bass, and I was singing, playing guitar. And I remember like, whoa! I think I played a gig at this place, And I took a picture. Then I sent it to Mike Barish and Rob Benson separately. Like, did we play at this place? And like 1 minute, not even a minute later, Mike responds, "Yes, we played there." Like, so years went by, but it was just right back in.
It's amazing how we rely on other people for our own memories, right? I have to ask John Kerrigan all the time, like, what was that show? And he's amazing. But yeah, Chillers. It was August of 2004. It was a
Right.
night, and I can barely remember anything about it. But
that's the beauty. When like I keep bringing up, I'm writing my autobiography, which it's fun. It's a lot of fun for myself, but I know people, especially people who know me, will enjoy it to see how I piece it together. I think it'll be fun. Yeah. And of course, people who were not part of that story, hopefully we'll get something out of the story too. And there's a lot of details that I don't remember, of course. So it's cool that I'm glad I don't remember. And I did destroy some journals some years back, so I'm missing a couple of years, chunks.
Destroyed?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I actually did. It was kind of heavy years. So I think it was just like kind of weighing me down. So I felt like if I got him out of my physical space, I could move on better. So a little bit of regret for that. But the cool thing is now it's I still have tons. I have two comic boxes full of journals, so there's more than enough to work with. But there's some years that I'm of course missing, but I get to reach out to people and then say, hey Jeremy, hey Lou, hey Dave, hey Lonnie, hey Lou, do you have anything from this period? And if they do, great. Then I could get it digitally, and then I could start piecing together dates, photos. It gives me a reason to reach out, to put the story together.
It's not. If it didn't sound like such a massive undertaking, it would be, a really good idea. It just sounds like, I'm glad you're doing it. I don't know if I have the energy or the patience to do something like that, but it sounds like something very cool. And I mean, once again, I mean, obviously we're on the show. This is not lip service. You're absolutely one of the most interesting people I've met in my entire life. And I mean that only in a positive way. Interesting could be misconstrued. I mean, in only the best way. So your book will be an interesting one. I mean, I think you've always, in the time I've known you, you have always been fiercely John Henry Sheridan. Nothing even close to anybody else, or wanting to be like anybody else, or trying to be like anybody. I mean, once again, I keep saying like 19. We were in Brooklyn College, 18, 19. You seem to have a truer sense of who you were at 19 than some people ever have. And so I think that you writing that book is going to be an interesting read.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. No, thank you. That's encouraging. And I look forward to getting reactions from people like you, Lonnie, in terms of just what you feel, see what it brings out, because there's going to be moments where our paths cross, or there's something going on at the same time, because it's Brooklyn. And I'm sure you're going to say, oh, I remember this happened to me at that time, or maybe specific, circumstances will come up too.
And I think
thank you.
I think I have a reputation with John of, I think he finds me a little blunt, but I think you don't mind. So you keep coming back.
I guess it goes both ways, right? Like from that one comment I gave you that day about the singing key.
It's honest. I don't think it's never hurtful. Some people hide under the guise of honesty, but for some reason, every time they're being honest, it's mean. So, if someone's always honest with you, and sometimes it feels good and sometimes it feels bad, that's probably a good sign that they're really being honest with you.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You guys did it at the same time.
Did we? I thought it was before him. I thought he copied me.
Maybe there's a little latency.
But that goes out to you too, Lonnie. So if there's any, I don't know if you're a keeper of memorabilia, but if there's anything from the past that you think dates from any show that I might have been involved in, or even our lessons together, if you have the book, or what years that was, that might help trigger something, or what you learned then. Any little bit of me putting the pieces back together, any photos from the back in the day, anything at all.
I'm not good
it helps
at that.
me to put the story together.
I remember a lot, but I don't keep a lot. I keep everything, but I was never one for like taking pictures. Like I have every CD you've ever released. I have, any show I've ever gone to of yours, if there was a flyer, I keep that kind of stuff, but I got to look around, but I never like took pictures or anything like that.
Yeah, right. If you have any flyers,
Yeah,
I'd be curious, if you find anything.
I got to find, especially
cool.
if we played together, if it was like a District 22 DMN day, I would definitely have kept that. Sean Kerrigan might be a good person for that too.
Yeah, he might be excellent for that.
He might have that. Him or Paul Vicenti also. Paul's pretty big on the memorabilia.
Okay, yeah, because 2004, 5, 6, those are my big holes in terms of what I have. And anything before that, actually, I have no flyers from any John Henry Sheridan gig besides my CD release party at the Elbow Room for Brooklyn Folk. And I did a lot of local solo shows, so I don't know where any of the dates are. I'm writing in a way, so like I'm actually trying to write every year of my life from 1980 to now.
Wow.
And it's just the way I needed a system, and that's been working. And it's kind of cool when you start like at the beginning, in January of 2003, this is what's going on. I was in school and blah, blah, blah. And then it ends up in December of, and then in July 5th, I played this show. It's kind of cool when you get actual date and, the show started at this time, and when you could kind of piece things together, it feels like, oh, wow, I'm feeling this story happen, So as much of that stuff I can get is
I'd
fun.
imagine the first couple of chapters are a lot of baby talk and colors and
yeah, and then I did Goo Goo Gaga, and then
it's just like a red square, a pink triangle. First two chapters.
it's tricky, by reading other people's, you see what they do for those, because who can put together their first 10 years well.
Yeah, that's what you need mom for.
Yeah, and what that is going to be a lot of is a little. I'm also interspersing it with like what big things that are pop culture stuff. Anything that happened that a little bit like We Didn't Start the Fire type of stuff. Anything that we could all relate to.
Sure.
My generation, and also anything that's relevant to me. So like particular Buddhist history that happened in those years, or maybe vegan history, or video games, or I remember this Iron Maiden album came out in that year. Things like that, and whatever's a gateway that'll further the story, like when I become vegan, to see how that connects to something that happened in 1983, when I was, just trying to weave some storylines together.
Sure, and I'm sure everyone knows some stories from from that time.
Yeah.
Good night.
They'll say good night.
Good night.
I know we're probably going to wrap up in a minute. One question, John. If I had to ask you, how many guitar lessons did I get from you? How many do you think? What do you think the answer is? I don't know the answer, but I have an idea. I'm just curious.
I'm probably not that many, right?
I was going to say my recollection is like maybe 3. Like it wasn't a lot, but I feel like I ended up just like hanging a lot, like being a part of what was going on there. But when I think back on actual lessons, I think it was very few.
Yeah, I guess it was probably very few spaced out over a long period of time, like maybe a couple more, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember being a heck of a lot. I definitely I would say no more than 10, but that could be mixed in with all the times you came and hung out, so I don't know in my mind.
I will say that initial day when I met you and you wrote out the C major scale, that set me on a music theory journey that I'm still on to this day. And it was just the basics of like, well, these are the notes in the scale, and that's how that works, and all the way up until now. And I've never been formally trained in music in any way, outside of lessons with you. But like sometimes I take like quizzes online just to see if I'm halfway there, and I get like I could like get into like a college program. Like I can't pass the college program, but I could maybe get in. Like I'll take like the classes now, but it's all and it all leads back to like that first lesson with you of thinking about music besides just playing it, and it that part of the journey. I also don't know how much you guys talk about, music theory on this call, but I'm obsessed. I love it. I mean, I watch videos, read articles, and surf Reddit, and I find it to be like riveting. Just
Reddit is a treasure trove of knowledge.
Oh my god! This is what I don't understand boredom. Like people tell me I'm bored. My kids say I'm bored. There is a world out there in your hands. You don't even have to walk outside. Find what you love and let it kill you. Is that what Bukowski says?
Yeah, I can't believe, even with my kids, they all have laptops now and iPads. I can sit here with this iPad and tinker with it pretty much for days and days and days just to see what I can do with it. Not even be constructive. Just like, oh, I can get an app for this, I can get an app for that, I can do this. Oh, wow. Like they just get bored immediately.
And I would argue I could be constructive. I will download a book. Like I don't like people see me on my phone. I'm not. Sometimes I'm fighting with people on Facebook, as we could see, but I'm not always fighting with people on Facebook about politics. You download a book, you watch a video. I learned how to do the. I don't know if you guys saw. I redid the basement floor here in the house. Yeah. YouTube.
Yep.
YouTube doesn't do that. You know, and so yeah, I mean, music theory itself as a journey for me has been almost as rewarding as playing music, and I love it.
It's a lot of math.
That-
Yeah, I mean, up to 13. Kind of stops there.
It's kind of high.
I pride myself on being able to name the notes in any chord. Like if someone could present a chord to me, I could tell you what notes are in that chord. Period. Like
nice.
that was something I practiced first. I can't even tell you how long.
F
But, like,
sharp minor diminished.
F sharp minor diminished. F sharp A C. But minor diminished doesn't make sense. It would be F sharp diminished.
No, wait.
Right.
FAC
Right?
is an F
F
chord.
sharp,
F
A,
sharp.
F sharp,
So an
A,
F
C.
sharp
diminished,
would
you
be an
mean?
F sharp
F
and
sharp diminished would be F sharp, A, and C.
F sharp, A sharp.
No, the A sharp would be major. A would be diminished. Minor.
Oh.
You need the minor, third,
No,
and
the
the
diminished is the fifth, not the third. The third is
Fifth is-
oh well, okay, yeah, it's a
Third is
minor,
minor.
so it's an A. No, you're right.
John?
Wow,
John?
see, it's all math, man.
Am I right?
Yeah, we have
You
to
got
get
me.
a proper chord name before we can see what's right and what's not. but
I didn't
F
have the
sharp
piano
diminished is,
roll in
yeah,
front of me.
F sharp A C.
F sharp
Yeah.
A. And then if you want the minor 7 flat 5, or do you want the diminished 7, which was inharmonic with the 6th?
Ooh.
Nice.
I'm telling you, man.
It's getting
Yeah.
fancy.
But I swear to God, it all started with John writing in that little spiral notebook that he made me buy and bring to his house, and set me off on a journey.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that. I do vaguely sense over the years, like you would talk music theory with me. I mean, not in depth, but just kind of mention things in passing. I'm like, well, I guess somehow like he got obsessed with music theory. I hope I didn't do that to him accidentally. Like I hope I didn't like cause that in a
No.
bad way. But I'm glad that had an impact like that.
No,
Because it sounds like you like it.
I love it. I love it. And as a songwriter, I feel like it's the difference between knowing like, well, I need something to get this nail into the wood. Let me play with all these. Let me try the screwdriver. And knowing like I need a hammer to get this into the wood. I feel like it's knowing the tool you need to get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. As long as you use it as a help and not a hindrance.
Right,
that's,
Yes.
Yeah, because you can get obsessed with it to the point like, oh, I don't want to play this out of no key, and that out of key note, and that's probably not useful. But
I think the term I always hear is descriptive, not prescriptive. Right? You could use it to describe what you're doing, but don't use it to make it what you're doing. Write it, then examine.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it helps to have a language that describes things in a pretty extensive way.
I can't read music though. I read it like a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are still there. You're not alone.
Can't read it at all. I mean, I can, like a 3-year-old. I'm literally like every good boy,
Face.
Yeah. Oh
I
God.
got one question. I know we should wrap up so we can actually have more to talk. Well, we can talk for 9 hours, I'm sure. But my friend Tom asks, "Hey Lonnie, who is your favorite singer-songwriter in today's music scene? What nowadays? I guess he means modern."
Yeah, this is the closest to stardom I'll ever get. Is somebody wants to know my opinion on something. So modern scene. So listen, I'd be lying if I said that I'm like super hip on what's happening right now. But I have kids, and so let me say this. More so than I think a lot of my contemporaries is that I am obsessed with pop music. So if you come to an acoustic show that I do, you're not going to hear Wonderwall. You're going to hear a Madonna song, or you're going to hear a song by NXS. Right? Like I'm obsessed with pop music through the ages, and I don't think anybody needs to hear another version of American Pie. Right? There's plenty of guys who can do that and do it well. So I'm obsessed with pop music, and I also feel like it's my undertaking as a musician sometimes to show people how beautiful a pop song is that maybe you didn't notice because it was obscured by keyboards and electronica. Like a song like, I go back to Madonna a lot. I think Madonna has had some of the greatest songwriters of all time. And if you listen to some of her material from late 80s and 90s, those are beautiful songs that if you take away the sex and the pointy bras are just great songs. So anyway, that's my base when it comes to pop music. I love pop music, and I think pop music is a valid art form just as much as metal, blues, or anything else. Okay. So with that said, I'm not chasing down any contemporary singer-songwriters, but there's people who I've noticed, their name pops up a lot. So like Shawn Mendes, he's got a few songs that you hear it on the radio in the supermarket and stuff, and leaving me in stitches and call me I love her when you call me senorita. And that's a great song. I don't know if you've heard it, but great groove, great. I like him. I think he's a talented guy. I really like that. That's Somebody to Love song by Louis Capaldi. I thought that was a cool song. That was a really good song. Contemporary. I feel like, I'm getting so old that people I feel like are contemporary are now no longer even contemporary. Like I'm thinking about a band like Fun. Like that's probably already 10 years ago that they came out with like Tonight.
Yeah.
But
they're not young anymore.
They're not young anymore, right? But when that song came out, I remember thinking like, people are still writing amazing songs. Wow. So that's one. I guess kind of old already. I'm trying to think of like something really recent that I was like, this is really great. I love The Weeknd. Oh man, The Weeknd is such a talented guy. I love so many of his songs. I love the stuff he did with Daft Punk. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, babe. Like what a hot song, my God. And then the new one he came out with that sounds like it could have been in like Beverly Hills Cop. Bam, 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 bam,
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, yo, this guy writes fire songs, and he's got a voice. He could be the next. He could, if he wanted to be a Michael Jackson impersonator, he could. He's got that kind of voice, and I think those guys. Ed Sheeran is really good, but sometimes I want to smack him.
Yeah, he could be a little much, but he does write really good hooks, like very good.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, "Woo, that's fire," and sometimes I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what? I'm going to say Coldplay, and I know that they've been around for a long time, but they're still very current. They're still having hits and singing and showing up places. And I think Chris Martin is a really consistent and interesting songwriter. Some of the stuff as it's gone on through the years has gotten a little poppy and electronic, but if you go back to like they first came out with that song, obviously Yellow, but I really like Trouble. Remember Trouble?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh no, what's this? Spider web and I'm caught in the middle. Like what a beautiful song. And I think Chris Martin is an amazing songwriter. So kind of mix of contemporary and then whatever's happened in the last 10 years.
And Coldplay's got a history too of writing hits. So it's not, they're still going.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's impressive alone. He's maintained a viability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I love it. All
right, cool.
Yeah. I love a good song. Period. I keep talking, right? Are you guys like texting each other like when's he gonna stop talking?
Not yet.
So no, I guess probably a good idea to wrap it up. I have to get up a little early tomorrow.
Yep.
And I can't wait to dig in again Thursday if you guys are both game.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm here.
I'm good.
Yeah. All right, cool. And I'll promote Thursday a little bit and make a little flyer or something.
Cool. Love talking to you guys.
All right, cool.
Yeah, same to you, man.
Pleasure.
And everybody on Facebook, we'll see you Thursday.
Good warm up.
And on Thursday we'll pay attention to you guys a little more. Today we were just kind of hanging out in front of everybody, but we'll try to engage the audience a little more on Thursday.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you all for watching, And thanks, Lonnie and Lou, for hanging out. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks to my wife for taking care of the kids while we have fun.
Yes, thanks to our female supporters, our primary ones.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Adios.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.